To be compliant with the DSPT, the business continuity plan must be in place to respond to threats to data security. You probably already have a plan which details what you would do in the event of a fire or a flood, or say even a pandemic. But does your plan detail what you would do in the event of a cyber attack or a data breach? Have you considered how you would access your care plans or records if the internet was down or your organisation was hacked, for example? The question 7.1.2 asks you to confirm that you have a business continuity plan that covers data and cybersecurity. For example, what would you do to ensure continuity of service if you had a power cut, the phone line or the internet went down, computer broke down, etc., etc. There is a template plan that you can download from Digital Care Hub. Click on this link here, and that you can adapt it and use as you want. Now, this template asks you to list all of the different systems and devices you use, such as email, care planning, HR, or payroll systems and devices, phones, etc. Scrolling it down. So it asks you to list all of your digital systems and all of the devices that you have, and then to rate them out of 10 to identify the critical ones that you rely on most. These are your critical systems and devices, anything that you've rated 5 or above. And if you do this, by the way, you should include devices that are personal but also used for work purposes. And then think about all the things that might go wrong with these critical systems or devices and what alternatives you have in place, that you might have in place if you're unable to access them or lost, stolen or broken. So examples could range from a power cut to a cyber attack through the failure of your main system supplier. So power outages or office and unavailability. And the template prompts you to consider, for instance, where would staff work from? Could they all go home and work on your own devices if office-based? How long could we go on like that for, and how else could we access the internet or other critical systems if they're normally online? So what you need to do is have a think about those scenarios and then write it down on this or a similar template. And once you've created your plan, it's really important that you then make staff aware of it and what to do in case of one of these incidents, that you test it to make sure if these actions would work in practice. So to answer this question, 7.1.2, which asks you to tick to confirm that you do have a business continuity plan in place and that it does cover data and cyber security. As ever, there's optional comments, and it's probably a good idea to write down where you keep that plan in the comments box. And once you've done that, you can save it. And I talked about testing your business continuity plan. And in fact, the second question about business continuity planning, 7.2.1, basically asks, have you tested your plan? Have you tested it recently? And that's the really hard bit that often catches people out. And because cybersecurity in particular changes really fast, and if you don't test your plan every year, then you're probably leaving yourself vulnerable. So how do you test the plan? You have a think about all the scenarios that could go wrong, what might happen if they did go wrong, and how that would affect your systems and what you should do about it. So it might feel a bit silly, but mimicking the actions of a scenario or an incident, something going wrong, is a really good way to test if your plan works. So for example, if you wanted to test what would happen if you had a broadband failure or a power outage, you could unplug the telephones, turn off the Wi-Fi or unplug devices in an office to simulate a power cut. You would then ask your staff to refer to the plan and see if the steps you put in place would actually work as an alternative in practice. If you wanted to test what would happen in the event of a cyber attack, you could simulate a phishing attack and check that staff would know what to do in the event of one. When you do test it, don't forget to record your test so you can refer back to results and make any changes if things didn't go as you thought they would. Alternatively, you could carry out a tabletop exercise where you sit down as a team and say, this is what's happened. What would we do in these circumstances? So it's still a role play of a kind, just one where you'd have to leave a bit more to the imagination and explore things through discussion. So however you test your plan, make sure that you do it at least once a year and write in the box what you've done. For instance, you could write something like, we periodically run tests to check our plans would work. We simulate a power outage or a lost device, etc., and map these against our business continuity plan to see if we did follow the plan, and then put the date that plan was last actioned or tested. Another common way of testing your cybersecurity in particular is to pay an outside organization to do something called a penetration test, which is to see if they can get into your networks and systems. And if you have Cyber Essentials Plus, penetration test is part of that. So that's what I've said here. Again, put comments in the box and save. There is also question 7.3.2, which is about emergency contacts. Now, the contacts in this case are the people who would be needed if you had to enact your data and cybersecurity business continuity plan. So if you've got one of these, tick that. And obviously, you need to think about where you'd keep a copy of that contact list, especially in the scenario that affects access to an office building. So in this case, it would be a really good idea to say in the comments box here where you keep your contacts list and save that screen. If you would like more information about business continuity planning, then the Digital Care Hub has a recording of a webinar that's made in 2023, implementing a robust business continuity plan. It's just over an hour and you can watch it at any time. Really good information and advice about this subject in more detail.